So welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of the video, today I'm going to show you how to make a nice homemade chicken noodle soup. So usually when you buy your favorite soup or you go to your favorite restaurant and you get soup, those are preserved. And if you do not know, one of the highest preservatives is salt. For this video, I'm going to show you how to eliminate a bulk of that salt and how to make something fresh and homemade. So I know it looks a little different because you guys do not see the traditional egg noodles. I'm actually using a different kind of pasta, and I'll get to that throughout the video. So right here, I'm showing you everything that you need, and everything is in the description box. You will find your grocery list, the full recipe, and all measurements. This meal takes about 45 minutes, and for this video, I need about 20 minutes of your time to show you how to create my version of it. So what you're going to do first is get a rotisserie chicken. Doesn't matter where you get it from, or you can roast your own like I did, but we're not going to do that. Go ahead and get what works for you. Then you're going to grab some carrots, a Spanish onion, and we're going to prep those first. So the first thing you want to do is cut the ends of the carrots off after you wash them. So carrots is one of those vegetables that you need to scrub. And if you were on my TikTok live yesterday, you watched me do this and I explained everything. So right here, you see me cutting them off. I've already scrubbed them, but it's no point for you to scrub the ends because you just cut those off. So for this recipe, I do have 1 dozen carrots. You can use less or you can use more. I like carrots. I do not like celery, which is why you do not see it in here. So after you get this prepped, what we're going to do is peel it. You're going to take a peeler. Doesn't have to be fancy, but you do want to peel the outer skin of the carrot. So you would do that for all of the carrots. Now, usually when you are making soup, you would create something called mirepoix. So mirepoix is a French word and it means equal parts of onions, celery, and carrots. And this is usually the base for all soups. So in the culinary world, me not putting celery in here will be one heck of a crime. But again, I do not like celery, and I am not someone that likes to eat stuff that I do not like. So if you like celery, go ahead and put it in. Before this type of soup, you want to refrain from putting a lot of extra stuff in here. So we're going to focus more on the carrots and the onions. And again, if you want to put the celery in there, you can, but those are like the main 3 that you do want to put in a chicken noodle soup. So after you get all of the carrots peeled, you want to go ahead and start to prep it so we can chop it. You can chop this 2 different ways, but I'm going to show you guys the way that I like to chop it. I just like to go ahead and chop them into circles. So you do want to make sure that you do grab a chef knife. You can do this with the butcher knife as well, but I wouldn't do that. I would just grab a chef knife. Not many people have a butcher knife. So a chef knife is what you want to have. And all you're going to do is just slice it down. You want to slice it about 1/2 inch. And if you want to go bigger, you can. But this is like the size that I like to have. So there is a technique to chopping. So when you are chopping anything, you do want to make sure that you are holding the knife correctly. And you do want to make sure that you are moving the knife and you are moving your fingers backwards. If you do not move your fingers backwards, you can cut your fingers. So I just suggest that everybody make sure that you are holding the knife right and you're moving your fingers backwards so you do not have any mishaps and nothing happens. So after you get all of the carrots chopped, you just want to go ahead and set those to the side. If you feel like you want to add more carrots, you can add more. But if you feel like you have enough or you have too much, just go ahead and take out as much as you like and put in as much as you like. Right here, I'm just showing you what the circle looks like. And again, you do want to make sure that these are about 1/2 inch thick. And if you want to go thinner, you can go thinner. But I think 1/2 inch is the best size in my opinion. So now what we're going to do is we're going to chop the Spanish onion. I do suggest that you get a Spanish onion. I feel like it gives off more flavor. But if you don't like Spanish onions for some reason, you can use whichever onion that you prefer. So prepping the onion is just as easy as prepping the carrots. So you just want to go ahead and peel the first outer layer of the onion off. So if you want to stop yourself from crying, a little tip is to have a cup of cold water. And all you have to do is every time you will cut the onion is dip the knife in the cold water, and it'll stop your eyes from being watery. That's just a little hint. So now what we're going to do is just actually cut the onion. So I'm going to use the whole onion. Usually what I like to do is cut slits into them just one time. I don't like to do vertically and horizontally because it does the same thing. It creates the squares. So right here, you just see me slicing them down. I do have them like medium to small sized. And after I get done slicing them, I go ahead and just start to chop them. And I go as far back as I can. It does not have to be perfect. Whichever size that you want, go ahead and make it. I don't suggest that you have really big pieces, but do whatever works for you. This is just how I like to do it. And as you can see how my hands are formed, you want to form the shape of an onion, and that'll keep it together. So you usually want to hold your pinky on the side and hold your thumb on the other side, and that will give you like a flawless finish, just to make sure that everything does stay together. If you have one of the machines that does this, that works perfectly fine. Or if you buy this already pre-cut or even frozen, that works just as well. So after I get done chopping it, I usually go ahead and run back through just to make sure all the pieces are broken up. And I just go ahead and put that into the bowl. Now, sometimes you might find the pit if you forget to take the pit out. Some of them actually don't have them, and they are just fine. So if you find it, just take it out. So what you want to do is repeat the same process for the other half of the onion. I had a pretty big onion, but if you're looking for one, I would stick to getting like a medium to large one. If you have a small one, then I would get 2 small ones. And the small ones, I mean the ones that's like not even the size of your hand, kind of like the size of like a lemon. You want to get 2 of those instead of just using one if you can't find the large ones like this. So now what we're going to do is we are going to take the rotisserie chicken and we're going to break that down. And then you do want to make sure that you remove the skin. You do not need the skin. This has already been roasted, so it plays no part. So what you want to do is take the pieces of your choice. I did a couple pieces of dark meat. Like I did a couple pieces of both, but I prefer using the white meat. So I didn't use as much of the dark meat. So for this recipe, I basically use one of each part of the chicken, 1 leg, 1 thigh, 1 breast, and 1 wing. So after you get the skin removed, now you're just going to shred it. You can shred it to your liking. I just like to use my hands to go ahead and break the pieces up because I don't like really small pieces. And if you have the little utensil where you can just break it up, it'll probably be quicker. Or you can put this in a food processor. But the hands is just, in my opinion, is quicker. So do keep in mind that I used half of this rotisserie chicken just because of the amount that I was making. Now, if you want to add more chicken at the end, if you feel like it didn't have enough meat, you can do that. But you can't, keep in mind that you can add, but you can't take away. So gradually add the chicken if you're not sure if you want more chicken or, you know, more of anything else. So you just want to go ahead and go through the chicken just to make sure there's no bones or no extra skin or anything left in there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the stove because we are about to start cooking the soup. So now we have everything prepped. We have our chicken, our carrots, and our onion. So now what we're going to do is warm up a pot and we're going to grab some European butter and some flour and we're going to begin to cook. So you want to use a Dutch oven of your choice, and then you're going to take 1 stick of butter and you're going to melt that down. It's very important to let the butter melt. I see a lot of people doing this, like they'll put a stick of butter or some butter in a pot and then they'll just throw everything in it. No, let the butter melt, and do keep in mind that this is European style butter. You can use regular butter, but you will be missing out. So after the butter is melted, what you want to do is take that onion and you're going to add the onion in first. So when you add the onion in, you are going to begin to coat all of the onion in the butter. So all you're going to do is allow the onions to saute for about 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes, and then you're going to let them sweat for about another minute. So all you're doing is letting the butter get infused with the onion. Do keep in mind that my heat is on medium to high. So you do not want to let these sit for too long. You want to continuously mix them up, and then you want them to sit for about 1 minute to get them to sweat down just a little bit. So after that, what you're going to do is you're going to take the carrots and you're going to repeat the same process with the carrots. The carrots is going to take a little bit longer, but do keep in mind you want to follow the same technique by consistently moving those around and making sure that they all are coated in that butter. So carrots do give off natural sugars, so you don't want to cook them down too much because you don't want it to change the flavor of the butter and change the flavor of the whole dish. So this is going to take you about 10 minutes to get the onions and the carrots actually sauteed and sweat down. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take a half a stick of butter. So you're going to have 1 1/2 stick of butter in total. And what you're going to do after the carrots and the onion saute is you're going to just drop the half a stick of butter in there and allow that to melt down. This is preparing for the roux. So once again, please allow the butter to melt fully. Before you add anything else and before you move forward, make sure that that half a stick of butter is melted fully. So once the half a stick of butter is melted, what we're going to do is add our first batch of seasonings. So the first thing you're going to do is add a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly black pepper. So you do want to make sure you do not use ground pepper. You want to make sure you are grinding your own fresh pepper. You're going to get that mixed in, and then now this is kind of going to throw people off, but this is a kind of like a secret ingredient. You want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So this is fresh nutmeg. This is what you see. And this is going to bring out a lot of flavor for all the rest of the seasonings in this whole dish in total. So now what you're going to do is get that mixed up. Now at this point, we're going to create a roux. There are 3 different kinds of roux. You have white, blonde, and brown. We're going to create a white roux. So we're going to gradually add 1/4 cup of flour. So when I say gradually adding flour, if you want to go ahead and dump it in, you can do that, but I suggest that you gradually add it in because this is what's going to create clumps if you just dump the whole thing in. So just take your time and make sure that you are gradually adding it in, and it should look just like this if you do it correctly. So you are going to continuously stir for about 1 to 2 minutes, and what this is doing is cooking off that raw flour taste. So this is your roux. So now what we're about to do is start to add the liquids. So the first liquid that you are going to add is going to be white wine. You're going to add a total of 2 cups of white wine. Same technique, you're going to gradually add it. The first cup, you want to get everything mixed up and get everything off of the walls. And then what you're going to do is add the second cup. This allows everything to come out nice and smooth. You can use whichever kind of white wine that you prefer. I usually cook with Pinot Grigio. Again, use whatever it is that you like. But keep in mind that if you would not drink it, do not cook with it because you're not going to like it. So you're going to cook that wine off for about 3 minutes. And then what you're going to do is add 2 cartons of chicken broth. You can use store-bought chicken broth or you can use your own chicken broth. Use whatever you prefer or whatever that you have. And you're going to gradually add this in as well. As you see here, you're seeing it form into a soup. So you just want to keep mixing it and keep adding the liquids until you have no more liquid to add. So as you're adding the liquid in, you want to keep stirring it. When you stir it, you want to make sure that there is no chunks of flour, sitting at the bottom or in the creases. You do want to make sure you're scraping anything off the bottom that might have to stick to the bottom. At this point, you do want to turn your heat from medium to high to medium. And again, you just want to go back and mix everything up to make sure that you do have a nice silk finish like this. So at this point, when you get all the liquid in, what you're going to do is allow this to come to a boil. So for the next 10 minutes, what you're going to do is turn your stove to high, and then you're going to allow it to boil. Once it is boiling, what you're going to do is go ahead and stir it again. And stirring it again, just make sure that there is no chunks of flour or anything left. You'll see it start to get a little bit thick. So now what we're going to do is season it. All of the seasonings are in the description box. You can season it to your liking, but I will have the measurements in the description for you. So for soups, you want to stick to the dried herbs and you want to focus more on that. When it comes to seasonings, you do not need a lot of seasonings. So I only had a total of 3 seasonings, and then this was one of the main ones, which is the chicken flavored bouillon from Knorr. So I added about 2 tablespoons of that. This is very powerful. You do not need a lot, but this is where it will bring out most of your flavor. You can use whichever brand of chicken bouillon that you prefer. So once you get that in there, what you're going to do is mix it. For a soup, you do want to make sure that you are continuously mixing it throughout just to make sure that there are no clumps. That is very important because you are making a liquid. So now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of dried parsley, and then I'm going to reduce the temperature to low to medium, and I'm going to allow this to cook. So you're going to allow this to cook for another 3 to 4 minutes. And right now you can see as the pot, it did reduce down in the liquid. So what we're going to do is add some water. You do need to add a little bit of water, not much, but you're going to add 3 cups of water. So when you add 3 cups of water, it's going to bring it back up to the top, and then you're going to allow that to cook for another 5 minutes. So we do want this to reduce down a little bit more. So what you're going to do is you're going to cover this and you're going to allow this to cook for another 6 minutes. So at this point, after the 6 minutes, the soup is done. Like, you basically can eat it like this. If you did not want to add any of the chicken or any of the pasta, you can eat the soup just like this. If you are suffering from not being able to hold down food, this broth is what's going to help you. So at this point, we're done. And what I'm doing now is just making sure that nothing is at the bottom. And again, if you want to eat it just like this, you can, but this is chicken noodle soup. So what I'm about to do now is I'm going to add the pasta. So instead of me adding the egg noodles, this is the kind of pasta that I usually use. So I usually like to use the Gigi pasta. I'm not a fan of the egg noodles. And when I always tell you guys to make sure you are getting pasta that is made with semolina flour and eggs, not white flour and water. So this is right here is what it looks like. And I usually take about 3 handfuls and I just go ahead and toss it in. You can use as much as you like, but please do understand that pasta does absorb water. So you don't want it to absorb all your liquid, so you don't want to add as much in it. So I usually cook it al dente, and authentic pasta usually takes about 2 to 4 minutes to cook. So this does not take that long to cook. So if you want to use the egg noodles, you can. But again, this is the kind of pasta that I'm using. So right here, I'm just going to wait a couple minutes and allow that to cook. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add 3 bay leaves. So I'm adding the bay leaves at the end because I didn't want to overcook them in the liquid. So I took about, they're not that big. They're pretty small actually. So which is why I did 3. If you have large ones, you just want to use 2 or even 1. So I'm going to cook the pasta for about 4 minutes. And then I'm going to add the chicken. The chicken should be the last thing that you add just because it is already cooked and you do not want to dry it out. After you add the chicken, you're just warming it up at this point, and it shouldn't take but a few minutes for that. And then what you're going to do is remove the bay leaves. So after you remove the bay leaves, you are pretty much done, and you should see exactly what your soup looks like. You can taste it and see if you need to add something to it, but do keep in mind that you did not see me add extra salt because the chicken broth has salt in it, and there was no need to add extra salt. Now you are officially done, and it is time for you to plate it. So right here, I just wanted to show you guys a little bit more detail of the pasta that I'm using, and this is the brand. I go to an Italian market to get this, and then the ingredients at the top, this is what you should see. It should not say white flour and water. It should say semolina flour and eggs. So right here, this is just a pot. This is what you just made if you are doing this full recipe. And this is a good amount of it. This will last you about a week if you're doing like meal prep, and you can freeze this. You can freeze this in your freezer. If you do freeze it, you want to let it cool completely and then freeze it. And you can pair this with like a French baguette or the crackers if you like. But let me know how you guys like this recipe. So let me know what you guys like to pair your chicken noodle soup with, or any soups that you have. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.